And we're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Office Hours. My name is Ola Halsgaard. I'm joined today by Richard Esplin, Francesco Corti, and Kristen Gastaldo. Today we have a full packed program of all good stuff. So we're going to have some announcements. We're going to have, I have echo. Oh no, sorry. We're going to have some announcements. We're going to have a tour of the new community space. Then we're going to have a discussion around roles and responsibilities and community and how everything ties in together. We got a great question from Boris that we're going to address, and you'll hear much more about Francesco and his role moving forward, and Kristen and community and everything. So full day, full hour, full of good things. So any announcements that we have? Francesco, I know you and Kristen have been planning Office Hours and Tech Talk Live. Can you start up with that?
Kristen, I start to describe the Tech Talk Live. Okay. Okay, so in 9th of November, Tech Talk Live, next Tech Talk Live, and thank you for that question, because we will have the Tech Talk Live number 99. So the month later, we plan to do the night 100. And we hope to have something special, and we plan to have something special. So if you would like to see something special and you have some suggestions, some advice, we are happy to hear. Then we will go again on the office hour, and probably we are happy to do more than this, because lots of interested question comes to discover better activity, for example, for the ADF and so on. So next Tech Talk Live will be the 9th of November. During the next days, we will confirm the content, even if we are thinking about great things about new frameworks and talking about technical.
And that's a great thing about having you on board now, that you can focus on doing these things, so we can actually plan these events way in advance, and not just 3 days before the event actually happens, so we can people can have a heads up and clear the schedule. So I'm happy to hand that off to you.
It's weird to think we're getting to Tech Talk Live 100. Luis Sala started out a very long time ago, and nothing like an arbitrary power of 10 to celebrate, right? Exactly.
Yep, I'll go ahead and actually post all the rest of the Tech Talk Lives and Office Hours in the community in just a few days. We plan to go back to that regular schedule of the second Wednesday and the last Friday once we get through the holidays. It'll be a little bit different in December.
Yeah, and Kristen, you're joined by a special guest today.
I am. Y'all forgive me if you happen to hear my child in the background. My nanny called out sick this morning. So my child, who doesn't get to watch TV, is currently plugged into the iPad. We'll see how long this lasts.
No problem.
We invest on new Alfrescans.
Yeah, start them early.
All right. Richard, you had some announcements as well.
Yes, the most important announcement I had, more of a conversation about Community Edition and our plans for the next round of releases. We did really good at monthly releases of Community Edition. The last 3 months we haven't done as good. That's because we've been finalizing, moving towards a code freeze for our next release of Enterprise Edition. And so our focus has been a lot of bug fixing. We haven't really had much to release. We've also done some reorganization of the code base and things like that, library upgrades. And we're kind of in a state, at least on the platform delivery team, where we don't feel like we can push it out until we complete some of these tasks. So apologize for talking about an October release and then not pushing it out. We do plan to push out a November release. We're trying to decide if it's an early access release or if we're going to call it our stable release, our GA. Normally, we used to the criteria we used when we originally started this whole EA-GA differentiation. We did it for the 5.1 release cycle, and we said, hey, if it's going to be EA until it's feature complete, until it's been out in the wild for a little bit as an EA, and until we have a plan to be able to upgrade from Community Edition to Enterprise Edition should somebody choose to. Currently, we're getting really close to feature complete, but we're not quite there. We're still adding REST APIs. It hasn't really been out there, but it's pretty stable. And but the enterprise release isn't until early next year, so there's not a real good upgrade plan. We're trying to decide if we should keep it EA or if we should make it GA and tell people that that they could use an early access of the enterprise if the time comes. So anyway, that's the logic that's going on. That's why we're keeping things really fluid. If we don't do a GA in November, we'd probably do it in December. So we're getting really close, feeling good. There's the nightly builds. If you can look at it and give us feedback, is really useful. We do look at all the information we get in a report to the ALF project. So if you have any feedback on a nightly build, please open an issue in the ALF project at issues.alfresco.com, and we'll see that, and that helps us gain confidence that people are playing with it and that we're smoking out issues that people might find.
All right. Great. Good announcement. So, Kristen, you're up.
Awesome.
Give us a good tour of the new community. So we felt a bit bad about it when we were talking just before we set up the call. We talked into Portal that we're going to release and get into wild and everything, but we didn't actually show anything. And then time just caught up. We released it, and we haven't actually done an office hours in a while now. So now it's the long overdue introduction to the new community.
Yeah, apologies. We got to talking, and I was like, did we really not demo the actual space for people? Did we just kind of talked about how we were going to set it up and when it was coming and all the stuff we were taking, and then we didn't actually show it to you. I think we weren't quite ready at the last one. So obviously today we are ready. So let me show you guys. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. So for those of you who haven't joined the new community yet, it is open and available for anybody to join and participate in. You can actually use the space without logging in. You can search and read and consume any kind of content on here without being a member, but in order to participate, you need to join. We tried to make joining as painless as possible. You just need your first name, last name, username, and an email address to join. If you're particular about having your first name and last name out there, obviously you can use your username for those fields as well. It's not a huge deal to us. I do encourage you to do as much as you can in your profile. So I've already joined. You can come in and edit your profile. And you can add things like your member type, which helps other users to know if you're a partner, if you're an enterprise customer. You can put your location. If you're a certified engineer, be sure to select that so I can assign a badge to you. GitHub, Stack Overflow, LinkedIn, just any way you want to connect with people. You can also say what products you use. So if you're specifically interested in connecting with other people who are on Community Edition or Alfresco 1 or Activity, you can put that in there. We have a bio as well for you to add. The cool thing about all of these fields is that you can search for people by these. So you can actually come in and say, I only want to see community users who live in my area, and you can do that on the platform. I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. So we did migrate in everything, from, well, almost everything, a large majority of everything from the forums, the blogs, the developer blogs, and the wiki. We organized them up here so that you can quickly access where those content pieces would be. Basically anything from the forums comes over as a discussion, a blog is a blog, and the wiki we moved over as documents. Jive, the way it works, Jive is our platform, so if you hear us say Jive, it's just the platform that we use for the community. They organize everything by content and by spaces. So if you go to forums, you're going to see all of the discussions. You should not see an error. I'll check that out. And from here, you can kind of filter if you only want to see blog posts or you only want to see documents, whatever you're interested in reading, you can filter up here. The easiest way to access everything, though, is going to be to go through the spaces. Our three main areas are, of course, ECM, BPM, and the app dev framework. Now, we didn't migrate over BPM activity forums whenever we launched, just because they were about to do a new release and they really didn't want to change the workflow for their users. However, we are planning to move the activity forums into the Jive space to make it easier for those of you that are using both products to see all of your content in one area. So this is the ECM space. It is organized by categories and links and content types. So we have all of our main blog posts over here. We have your downloads, a blurb about, about the project in general. We have your upcoming events. We feature content, and this rotates out, but a lot of that content there will stay pretty similar. The most recent release notes, etc. We have links that you used to have in the, in the wiki, so you know where to download. You can access the source code, know how to join the IRC chat, or if you need to access GitHub or Stack Overflow. You also can see answered questions, unanswered questions, and our leaderboard. If you're interested in looking at just content that has been tagged with a certain category, say you only want to look at things about the public APIs, you can do that with categories. Just select your category and it will pull up all of the content, no matter what type it is, that is associated with public APIs. We also tried to create the content page is just the easiest way to see everything in here. If you're interested to see what happened most recently, you may want to use the activity tab. And this kind of goes through just everything that's happened. The most recent activity will always appear at the top. So if someone's commented on something, if someone has posted a new question, it'll appear in this feed. So this is the easiest way to kind of see the most recent actions in the community. We did sort out, we had a big discussion about whether we wanted to take things from the repository and from Alfresco Share and put them in a separate space. Essentially, we decided we wanted to keep it all together to make search more easily usable so you can get to everything you need. But we did create these different pages here for repository and for Share, so that if you only want to see things about Share, you can come in here and see end user discussions or developer discussions that are tagged with the Share category. Same thing with the repository. Repository pulls from several areas that would fit in there, such as installation, configuration, admin, customization. I'll be interested to hear how you guys actually use this space, how you end up consuming the content. I personally prefer the activity feed, but you may use it differently. You also can follow a space so that you can see what's happening in that space in your inbox. Another thing we've put on this page is the Get Started page, is a better way of saying it, I guess. Basically, we want to make it as easy as possible to get up and running with Alfresco. So we've put a bunch of our resources together and kind of organized them based on what you're trying to do. Integrations, extensions, checkout add-ons, contact support. This page is actually, it's a new page and we're already revamping it. Since Francesco has come on board, he's going to create a ton of new content. And so we'll be updating this page with more tutorials and different guides and blogs and documents to help make things easier for you. On the main ECM page, there's
just a quick note on the Get Started page. It's the one-stop shop we want to have because when you go and download either the Enterprise Trial or Community Edition, you get to a page that just links all the resources in one big page, all links just listed under each other. And we wanted to try and consolidate a bit more and make it more easily accessible and have this be the place. If you want to get started, this is where you go.
Exactly. And we're going to continue to update it and make things easier. And we'd love to hear feedback. If anybody says you really should reference this document, it was really helpful for me, then we can take that under consideration and maybe organize things a bit differently. One area that is a little bit buried in the platform is our collaboration space. So this is a page that is sorry, y'all.
There are some questions for the boss.
Yeah, apparently so. So this page is designed for you guys to work on things together. Basically, when you create things in Jive, some things are question and answer format, but then if you create a document, those are by nature shareable. I'll go through that in just a second. But what we've been using this for right now is pretty much for the hackathon was our main area for hackathon, where you could set up a team or say what you're working on and let people join the space. But if you want to work with other users, if you have a project you're working on and you need some feedback that's a little bit different than just say a general Alfresco question, this is going to be your space for it.
When we looked at the old wiki, we said there's some items that are related to specific products, in which case they have their space in the new Jive social community. But there's some stuff that's just about working together, and so Collaborate replaces that for the old wiki. So it's the place where you don't have to ask permission to create a page. Just go create a page, do your thing, and if you don't know where the page goes, stick it in Collaborate, and then we can figure it out in the future. Decide the right place.
Yeah. So speaking of creating things, any space that you're in, you can post from this little pencil button up here. You have several options for what you want to contribute in Jive: discussions, files, documents, polls. You can message people, you can upload a video. Some spaces allow for ideas, some do not. We don't have, that's a large company conversation we're having about rolling out ideas across the board. So we'll address that at a later date. But currently, your options are, discussion, files, documents. So if you have a question, put discussion. You have your title. You have a WYSIWYG editor to add code, whatever you need to do here. You pick a space. If you're in ECM, it'll default to ECM. If you're in Collaborate, it'll default to Collaborate. You can always change it later. Tags are freeform, so you can type in anything you need to here. If you add categories, it just helps with the search, and it helps for people that peruse by category. It's obviously not required to do that, but it is helpful if you can put as much information as you can in here as possible. So BPM right now currently just links you out to activity.org. Like I said, we will eventually have an activity space set up in the community. Possibly by the end of the year. It just kind of depends on the migration schedule for both our company and the Jive team that we work with. So the app dev framework page, this is a new space as well. This is where we'll put everything in relations to app dev. As of right now, most of those conversations are currently still happening in Getter, but we are going to start posting more content here and then having more conversations and having more of our team participate in this space. The Hello World app is coming soon, but there are documents already on getting started, checking out the sample code, checking out the component catalog.
And this is to further build on the app development framework, because when we released it and we started building all of this, it didn't really have a home. Like it's consistent of multiple parts, like the JavaScript API, the generators, and the actual components. It's spread across multiple GitHub repositories, so there's not really one place you can go to see it all. We try and put it in the README in the GitHub repository for the components, but we really needed an interactive space where we can track questions and everything. So we were still building out the space, and we're trying to source the conversation to go into Jive and to this platform and this page and space, and we're still working on it. And the Hello World experience is it's taking a bit longer than expected, but it's going to be great when we get there, and we'll do some noise when it's ready.
Perfect. So when you are going to post a question, it's automatically going to search. If you do any of these ask a question areas, it'll start searching to see what's out there already, so that hopefully you can find your answer before you ask. If you don't see it, just ask a new question. Same up here. If you want to search the entire platform, you can use this magnifying glass up here. It also is a handy little area is the history. So if you have areas that you frequently visit, the most recent ones appear here, which is helpful for finding a document you were just on without having to search. You also can bookmark things, and they would be accessed here. The language groups all moved over. So, if you participate in any of these groups, all that content moved over. You just, need to go to the space, and you can just participate in your native language here. Same functionality you have in the areas.
One of my favorite things about the new platform is that now we're practically created a wiki for every single language. That there's currently only conversation, because the only content we had in Italian and Spanish were the forms, but you can create documents in your language for you to share with other people. So hopefully that's a resource you take advantage of. It'd be really useful for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Another thing, sorry, Kristen. Another thing that we are doing, so to have an example how the community portal could be used, is to create a private space. In particular, we are working on the early adoption project, and where people vote, have lots of requests around it. So it's a new functionality that we are experimenting together with Kristen, Ola, and of course all the staff. The tests again about the features, experiments, documentation, and so on. To have ideas on how to use the pod, so to define some private or public spaces when to
Francesco, you're breaking up a bit. Maybe you can try and turn off the video just a second. It's seems like there's some connectivity issue. We're just not lucky with connections these days.
Okay. Yeah, Francesco, you're cutting out a little bit.
Well, he looks at that. Bagia points out that there are mobile apps for Jive. and he says they're pretty cool. I had no idea. I need to check those out.
Yeah, there is definitely a mobile app, and it is pretty good.
Axel says he thinks the language groups are a big boon, but wouldn't it be great if everyone could coalesce on a single common language? And yes, in a perfect world, maybe. Axel also wants to make sure you point out the leaderboard.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So that's coming. Okay. So the other space,
he says Marcus wins.
I'll do the connect last. So about this community is about, community is such a dangerous word with this group, but about this community is about this, as Richard calls it, social community, about Jive, about this space that we're using. So I will post things in here around how to navigate our guidelines, how to find things, how to say thank you. There's some neat functionality there. Where we migrated things from and where it lives now. And if you have questions for me, post them here, questions for the community manager or any kind of feedback. We do have a lot of functionality in this space that we can use. So if you are, you know, if you're thinking about a project and you need a private space, or you want to form a public group of people that work in a certain area, let me know. Like, we have the option to create some different spaces in here and let you guys work together how you'd like to. So just let me know, run it by me, and we'll see what we can set up for you. So the connect space, one of the reasons that we encourage you to completely fill out your profile is because you can search for people based on things in their profile. So you can add a filter and say, I only want to see people that have a certain skill. Let's see what comes up. And these are people that have said they work in this area. You also can do things like, okay, I want to connect with someone who's certified engineer. You can see those people there. There's just a lot of great ways to connect and find the right. You can do multiple filters. So if you say you want to see somebody that I want to see employees, or I want to see partners, that have a certain skill set, you can put that in here and figure out who you need to connect with, essentially, which is pretty snazzy.
And how does somebody get listed as a partner?
So that's something in your profile field. Essentially, you will say edit profile, and you'll do your member type. Now, I go through and verify these. So I'll get you some more in a minute, okay? I'll go through and verify these because sometimes we'll have, we've had employees say that they're community edition users because, well, they are. So I go through and kind of try to clean this up. And if you're a partner or an enterprise customer, I try to make sure you're in the right tagging in there if you've volunteered that information already. So from beyond there, we do have a leaderboard. So Jive comes with a good bit of kind of out-of-the-box gamification. We went through and we prioritized what we thought people should get points for, as far as responding to questions, getting helpful answers, posting blogs, having likes, having someone mark your answer as correct, things like that. You get points for in Jive, and that's how you build up on the leaderboard. This is the overall leaderboard. There are leaderboards in each individual space. So if you're very active in the collaborate space, you may be at the top of that, or if you're very active in the Spanish language group, you may be the top of that list. But this is the overall. No wonder Axel wanted us to point it out today. This is the overall point section.
On IRC, Axel saying he definitely understands he should be humble, but his competition with Dave has been a fun rivalry. Now that they get points for more than just answering questions, but also filling out pages and moderating, it's entertaining to watch things change. And Marcus, as you saw, is a fast up-and-comer. He's been marking pages as official and cleaning up stuff. And and the points are a fun competition or a fun game, but we do really appreciate the contributions people make. We can't keep up on the large amount of information on our own, and taking the time to mark something as official or mark something as outdated or add a comment, mark things for action, really makes it easier for us to provide a useful resource to everybody. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So
and
a question came in on leaderboards. One thing is, it's nice to show that you're number one, but is there any rewards for being number one?
So there are going to be, yes. So this is something that we've been working on. Essentially, we have, I have a community, I have a small community budget for recognizing and rewarding our power users. So we are ordering some new Alfresco merchandise. We're looking at some other things we can do as far as some initiatives to recognize people, say, as our member of the quarter or our employee of the quarter, that comes with some, more than just a badge or a thank you. We actually have a little bit of fun money to say thank you guys for being, unofficial employees, for contributors to the space and to the product.
Bagia wants to know if they convert to airline miles.
Or someone asked.
What's that?
An airline miles or a T-shirt.
Airline miles or a T-shirt,
I think at this point Axel probably needs to point out to us which parts, which pieces of clothes he's missing to have a complete set of Alfresco branded clothes. I think
a full outfit, yeah.
Yeah, I think pants were the only thing that is missing. But Axel, please do let us know so we can. Oh yeah, yeah, he needs Alfresco pants. That's the only thing missing from his collection. So.
I'll look into that. I'll see who's printing branded employee pants, branded pants there. Yeah. So some other things.
But if you prefer a airline miles for a small small regional middle European airline, I can look into that. I'm sure there's one that you can get the miles for fairly cheap.
Of course, if
Ryanair.
If Axel will get the pants, we want the photo, huh?
Fair enough. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
A cool thing you can do on here, so they have the leaderboard, you have some quests. Quests are a new thing. We're starting to get some of these up. Currently, the quests are really around just onboarding, but we will have some initiatives where some months we say, we really need to clean up this space. We're going to run a quest so you can get like a large sum of points for helping out with cleaning up old content or adding new content. So we'll roll these things out as we go. We don't want to like overwhelm you guys with gamification. I know that this is just kind of a nice bonus to be recognized for what you are doing in the space. But we will roll out some things that we want help with or could use help with, and you can get rewarded for that activity. You actually can send things to each other right now, which is, I think it's kind of cool. I use these pretty often. So if someone answers your question and you want to say thank you, you can always send them a thank you badge. I could say to Axel, thanks for all your contributions. And then I could send him a message, and I actually can award him points. I can actually give him some of my points for helping me out. So I like to do that. I personally cheat the system because I'm doing so much moderation and cleanup that it's saying that I am top of the leaderboard, but I'm not the one actually providing answers. So I do give away a good few points based for interaction in the space.
Bagia wants to know if points expire over time if you're inactive.
Nope. We haven't set, there's a possibility of saying that quests expire. So if I issue a challenge, there can be a limited date, but once you have your points, they're your points, unless you give them away.
Axel is offering to Dave Draper some points.
Or is it the other way around?
Nice.
So, quick question: is there a way to? I think we talked about this in the past, and I genuinely can't remember the answer to it. Is there a way to ask a question and offer a bounty on it, or is this something that's coming later?
It is coming. I know that's available in GitHub right now or in Stack Overflow right now. But yes, that is something that Jive is going to roll out, where you can ask a question and put a bounty on it. We do not have it yet, and I don't think it's. We have a release for Jive next week, and I don't believe it's in there. So I'll find out the ETA. Jive releases about every 2 months. They have some new updates, so hopefully maybe beginning of next year, but I'll find out about that and get that to you.
And Axel's pointing out that it is possible to get negative points when content gets deleted. I cleaned up some old content and ended up with some negative stuff.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, if you've received some things saying helpful or official, and then we delete that content, then you would lose points. We haven't been deleting a bunch of content though, but we are doing a bit of cleanup where if you search and you find a question from 2008 that nobody ever answered, I'm trying to get rid of some of that stuff because it's just not helpful for anybody. So I'm not deleting things that have replies or likes or official things. So hopefully you won't feel that pain, but it is a possibility.
And Bagia wants to know if he can blog on the Jive platform if non-employees can host a blog. I know we discussed that. We were trying to figure out who would be interested. Sounds like Bagia is.
So not currently. It's not out of the box for you guys. But we are interested in that. We kind of thought, do we want to set up a certain level of a threshold of points, a level of credibility in the space? I know a lot of you already have your own Alfresco blogs and you're hosting them yourselves. But if you are interested in having a blog in this Alfresco community, send me a message. Just send me a private message and let me know, and we'll kind of go on a case-by-case basis for now. Obviously, the more Alfresco content in this space, the better. But we want to make sure, we just want to go through some of the logistics of how that would work on an individual basis. But yeah, we would love to have more of you guys creating content. Even if you don't do a blog, of course, you can always do a document or a file you can put in here. And I'll actually start a post today and kind of say, hey, who has a blog that we should be checking out, right? So that other people can follow your blog and see what you're posting elsewhere. The last bit, or there's 2 more bits of the Connect space. We have the place for announcements and opportunities. We just kind of needed a place where you guys could say, hey, we're doing this meetup here, or we have a job opening in our company, or I need a developer to do this. This is your space for that. You can post, you guys would post member announcements. You can post an announcement, or you can post a job opportunity. And that will just go in this space and people can search for things here. We also have a featured member area. That would be this blog post here, and also linked from the top. These are just people that I've been kind of reaching out to and getting a little background on, so you guys can get a little more information about other Alfresco users and community members. I've been doing it kind of based on some people that I know participated in the hackathon, or people that I see answering a bunch of questions in the space. If you'd like to be featured, feel free to send me a message. If you would like me to feature somebody, let me know that as well. Right now it's just members, but we are going to start doing some employees as well. We may do some things like AMAs, depending on the capacity for what our staff kind of has time to do in the community, and how easily this platform works with things like that. So lots of good stuff coming up as far as helping you guys get to know each other and get to know our staff as well. Some other cool functionality you may want to use. So if you have a question, if you want to tag somebody, or if you have a reply for somebody, there's an @mention functionality here. And then they'll be notified if they have been mentioned in a post or mentioned in a reply. That would probably appear in your notifications. And especially if you don't have it set up to go to your email inbox, it would come to your notifications here. So you can kind of see what people are doing or what you've been tagged in and respond to.
Kristen, one question from IRC. What happens during the migration about the points? So I mean, people that has had in the past lots of contribution during the migration, what happens in the new platform?
Well, we had the option to either migrate over the exact number of points that we had, or migrate over all the content and see how the points worked out with our new structure. Just to save ourselves heartache, we decided to migrate over the exact number of points you had. So if you had 500 points in the old space, you had 500 points in your profile in the new space. If you don't see your points, let me know. There may be some issue with syncing.
So actually, as far as I remember the migration, we wanted to do the track the points that it yielded for the old content, but we couldn't do it. It was something to do with the way we had to import the posts, which we couldn't tell the APIs to award the points for this counting as you written a new post or something. There was some technical limitations.
That's right.
We did end up having to just take the points as were. And obviously now that we're in the new system, we have a completely different point system. So the first couple of days, the leaderboard was exactly the same as it was in the old forms. But after a while, people started earning more points based on the new stuff. And I think the conversation started around Mark Rogers. He was absolutely #1 in the most posts ever, and I think he still has the lead in terms of number of posts, but he's not #1 on the leaderboards. He's number 17 now, which is it's just the way it is. There's not much. Our hands are pretty much tied on it.
And it's also worth recognizing that points in the old forms were granted by the asker of the question. And so if people didn't know to award points, which many people didn't, then there's just a lot of, and you'll find this with any system, there are a lot of good contributions that didn't get recognized. And that's just, yeah, thank you for contributing. We're sorry we didn't recognize everything.
Exactly. And that's where we kind of hope some of those quests will come in, where we say, we want you to provide some feedback on a certain area of a product, or we want you to respond to this poll. We can incentivize those actions that we do, can recognize, hey, thank you for participating in this bit where we need your help. And of course, like, you can give points to each other as well. Let me see other bits that you may want to know about. We'll always feature events here. Your newest members are here. Popular content. This is usually the bit where the most recent kind of information about each of the product areas and the company strategy overall live. But I imagine you guys are probably spending most of your time in the actual ECM space or in language group or Connect, one of those areas. Guys, am I missing anything? Anybody have any questions about navigating or joining or?
No, I think we've pretty much come around all the best parts of it. And if you have any questions, let us know. Post in the community. We're more than happy to help. And I think in the interest of time, we should start moving on to the next the next topic.
Baggia does point out that he has been collecting a list of awesome Alfresco add-ons in his GitHub project. So feel free to browse the list or to add your own. So github.com, and Baggia is BHAGYAS, awesome Alfresco. And it's a pretty good list. I know that Order of the Bees been working on a similar list, and we're hoping that this community platform, the social community, makes it easier for people to share these lists with other members of the community.
Exactly. This is very interesting, in my opinion, also to have feedback from the community to say, hey guys, why we don't set up a space or a content that way? Of course, probably it will require time, but in my experience working with Kristen and Ole and Richard about setting up spaces, it's very straightforward and it's very nice also to receive feedback. Sorry, Richard, if I interrupt you.
That's fantastic.
All right, so the next item we have on the agenda is to talk a bit about roles and responsibilities and everything. So I'm not quite sure how to start this topic, other than I could just speak a little bit about myself and hand it over to Richard, and then we do me, Francesco, then Richard, because that gives us a nice segue into the question that Boris sent us. So now that we have Francesco on board, he's the new evangelist. He's essentially going to pick up my old job that I didn't get to do I didn't get to do it for long or very well because I started doing product management work. But now that Francesco is on board, I am now officially the product manager for developer platform. And we're discussing whether or not that title includes developer platform and APIs or just developer platform. But in any case, from a product management point of view, I own the developer persona. So if you have any questions, concerns regarding developer experience, getting started content, all these kind of things, all the hardcore developer issues, time to value, everything, then please, I'd love to talk to you if you have any insights or any feedback. This doesn't mean that I'm going away from the community. I'm still active in the IRC channel, not as much as I used to. I'll still pop in on Tech Talk Live from time to time, but Francesco is going to run that, and Kristen is going to take over office hours. So I'm still very much around, and always feel free to ping me. And you'll see me at Beacon and events all over the place. I'm still around. I'm still here. Just have a change of roles. So yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think it's good for context to explain Boris's question. He pointed out that at Alfresco Summit 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's been a while now. Jeff Potts was 3 years ago. Jeff Potts was the head of community relations for Alfresco, and he said, look, he took a page out of a Pentaho blog post that explained an enterprise open source business model. And he wanted to explain how Alfresco does business, especially with our new management team, the not so new management team now, it's been a few years. And the point was, if you look at if you look at a syrup factory in Vermont, and the farmer goes in and he taps all the trees and he takes that syrup and turns it into a product that he can sell at the grocery shelves, those trees don't have a choice in whether they're tapped or not. They're a resource, and the company taps them and takes that resource and gets it to market. And that's very much like proprietary software. And open source software is, according to the Pentaho founder, is much more like a honey farm. And the bees are out there making a product, but most people don't want to go dig into the beehive and get out that product. It takes a beekeeper to go and take care of those bees and nurture them and keep them healthy and strong, and to take that product and refine it and screen out all the bee parts and get it to market. So that's the way Alfresco wants to work. We want to be a honey farm that plays nicely with all of the contributors to our open source community. We want to give them good resources, good code they can build off of, and we want to provide a stable enterprise product based on that resource that the community's provided for us. So Boris says, Jeff was the beekeeper at one point in time, and then when he moved to his consulting opportunities, I took over as beekeeper. But I moved out of that role, and who's the beekeeper? Is Alfresco still nurturing the bees? And I've found it really cool that when I was, had that hat, I guess, of the community relations person at Alfresco, it was such a big job, and it was hard, and it was a lot of different things up in the air all the time. And we never felt like we were investing adequately. And so I put together a proposal and said, let's put this into a number of different roles. We need a role for the community manager, that's dealing with the social properties. We need a role for the person who's maintaining and keeping alive those social properties. We need a role for the product manager for Community Edition. We need a role for the developer evangelist. And we split that role out. And over the last 2 years, we've got all those pieces hired. So Kristen is nurturing and interacting in the social community, and Francesco's the developer evangelist. And I've moved to be product manager over the ECM platform. And Oli's helping with the developer side. And it's become much more scalable. Now, when I first moved to the product team, I said I was the product manager for Community Edition, and I managed our open source strategy across most of our products. And again, it didn't scale very well. We ended up feeling like the open source strategy was an afterthought when it should be core to who we are as Alfresco. And so what we've done is we said, look, each product manager should be paying attention to the open source strategy for their product. So Oli pays attention to the open source strategy for the app developer framework. I'm paying, and I've changed my focus to be more focused on the ECM platform as a whole. John Knowles handles share and web apps. John Eyeball handles records management. Mark Debusson handles mobile devices, and we have a couple other product managers. And each of us has to pay attention to that open source strategy, and we're training them and making sure they understand the importance of the open source strategy and how do we get better at taking contributions, how do we prioritize contributions across our commercial backlog. And we're learning how to do this better as an organization. I think it's fantastic. I love that for a long time I felt like I was the only person on the team. That's a bit of a simplification, that really had a deep understanding of working with our open source community. And now I feel like we've got a bunch of people on our team who really care about our open source community. And I hope you see that reflected in that we've got 4 of us on this call instead of just Jeff and I. So I see that as very beneficial. And I hope that you see the results of that increased effort and that spreading of the load across more members of the Alfresco team.
Richard, may I ask you a question from inside, let me say. So in your perfect picture, because I like your picture that you describe, which is the role, in your opinion, and in our opinion, of course, for example, of the leaderboard of the Order of the Bee? So, I mean, I think that you have done a great picture, and for me also an attractive picture of the open source model inside Alfresco, let me say. But I feel like, but tell me which is your opinion, please, that there is a long hand of the open source that is not limited to Alfresco 2, but is connected directly to the Order of the Bee, so to the community all. Which is your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and I should also explain for people who might be new watching this video.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's after Jeff's conversation about the idea of this honey factory or honey farm, and Alfresco has a nice flower logo. A group of open source enthusiasts formed what they call the Order of the Bee, that exists to preserve the open source nature of Alfresco Community Edition or the Alfresco open source products. And there's a board of members that got elected, and we seem to keep hiring people off of that group, which is fantastic. And so Francesco's asking, how can we better work with them? Because there's a lot more Alfresco enthusiasts, open source enthusiasts, than there are employees. And it's, he's exactly right. And part of that has been internally educating my team on how to interact with the Order of the Bee and how to have these conversations. It is fantastic. I love that there's a body of people who are representing the interests of our open source community. It's a lot easier to have a conversation with 5 people than it is to have a conversation with hundreds of people. And so we do still need to have the scale conversations. That's why the Jive platform is so useful. But we're able to go to the smaller group and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And get ideas and see what people's opinions might be, because these people were elected by the members of the Order of the Bee to represent them. And so we can have those conversations feeling like it gives us an insight into the broader group as we try things out that we might not be ready to talk about publicly yet. So I see that as really valuable. And of course, we do support BCon. The Order of the Bee has started their annual conference, and next spring in Zaragoza, last week of April. We forgot to announce that at the beginning of this call. So I feel there's a poll about it in the Jive community. We hope you interact with, give us feedback on what you think, and we're going to start the call for paper soon. Or not we, the organizers of BCon. And so we want to support the Order of the Bee in doing the good work they're already doing. We want to engage with them more directly on a regular basis, but there is a certain amount of educating internal members of our team. We've hired 3 new product managers in the last 6 months, all of which didn't previously have open source experience. I've tried to have a lot of conversations with each of these people about open source and our community and Order of the Bee, and how to talk and how to build an open source strategy. And I do work with, when they present their open source strategy to the product management team, Oli and Francesco and I are able to give feedback and suggestions. But there is always an educating process when you're a growing company.
So thank you. So the beacon is the next beacon of the coming year.
Yes. So we talked about it the last beacon, but we left things a bit fluid. But I think they're locked in now. Last weekend in April in Zaragoza, we're gonna hang out with Angel. He invited us all to dinner at his house. No, I'm teasing. He didn't, but it is his hometown.
We know where the after party is now.
Exactly. But Francesco, I think so the next step is for you to describe your new role and what you're planning to do.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try if my connectivity will work, because of before I had a problem. So I start, as you can see in my picture, I have my Twitter account that is still valid, but right now, so my new role is that. So take a look. Okay, so I can see my brand new role inside the. No, it's wrong.
No, it's fine.
Okay, that's fine. So what a product evangelist do? Mainly what Ole did in the past, because he say he left some of the tasks, but it is not true. Of course, we have right now one person, that's me, dedicated to that specific goals, and I would like to introduce which are the goals right now. And this is nice because there are not only the goals to maintain regular activities all over the Tech Talk Live, over the office hours. That is a great thing, because I always receive feedback during the last days and during the last week to have more interactions between Alfresco and the community of developers about being informed, having some news. For example, one very common question I receive is, which is the roadmap of the product starting from today ahead? We want to work on that, and we want to share those information. Another question that I always receive is about activity and the recent news about activity. We are going ahead on that roadmap. We are going ahead strongly on all the things that we have to do and we want to do. So me, an example, together with the other guys of the team here, guys and girls, of course, we are strongly committed to receive feedback and to work with you. So if you have this question, what exactly a product evangelist is and how is different from a developer evangelist, to do that, I would like to share a little bit my screen and show with you and talk with you about give me a minute. Okay, that's nice. Please tell me if you can see it or not. So
we see it.
Okay, great. So what is a product evangelist, and which is the difference from a developer evangelist? This is my one of the posts in my personal blog post, and I'm showing it because I want more access to it, of course, not because I'm interested about the content. But in few words, the product evangelist is only another way to call the developer evangelist. The developer evangelist, so exactly the role that covered Ole until my arrival. So in this blog post, you can find some notes and reference about the most relevant developer evangelist in the recent history, and you will be happy to see lots of interesting names for your interest, of course. But mainly a developer evangelist is focused on the developer community. So this morning we had a chat on the IRC talking about the word community. So that is quite abused. We have a community edition of Alfresco, we have a community portal, and we have also a developer community. In this sense, community is we can also use a synonym that is ecosystem. So developers all. So if you are a newbie, if you are an experienced developer, because of course we cannot compare a newbie, a person that wants to ramp up into Alfresco with an experienced Alfresco worker and one person that works on Alfresco since the beginning, let me say. The role of the evangelist, the developer evangelist, is highly technical, and probably it was a technical until yesterday. For me, let me say, I would like not to stop to be technical, but this is something that we could work on during the next steps. And of course, this is an aptitude for communication because it's a public role. So it's someone that has to be on the ground with the developers, on the ground with people to work on things. Another topic that I would like to touch with you about this role is about the fairly and honest promotion of the product and of a service. So if you read lots of documentation about developer evangelist, you will see that developer evangelist is different from brand promotion and the pure marketing. It's something more dedicated to the developer community, something more, let me say, practical on things. And of course, is a public figure representing Alfresco to the developer community. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that one. One of the goals is to improve the developer experience. Probably we don't have enough time, so I have to jump straight on the fact. One of my precise goals, and so I go back to the face. Okay, now you can see me probably. One of my goals, and one of the goals of my roles are to interact with you guys to create a better developer experience if you are a newbie or if you are an experienced developer. So one of the things I'm doing, and I started to do, and you have to know that I'm very happy that someone of you contact me in the past talking about his pain, and not only his pain, some questions I mentioned before, the matter of activity that we all know, and that we as Alfresco are facing, pushing as much as he can, exactly with the strong determination that we had a few days ago. So we talked about how to improve the developer experience, how to do better than this. So I stop right now talking about my role, but one thing that I would like to share with you is that I'm here also to receive feedback, not because I want feedback only about the Enterprise Edition. Of course, I'm interested also in Enterprise Edition, but I want feedback from the developers all. and you will see with practical tasks that we do together with the guys, with Kristen, with Ole, of course, because Ole leaves the role but don't leave the tasks, and with Richard too, of course, because he's a relevant part of the community from a historical point of view, from a practice point of view. But one of the things that I would like to work on is to talk about all the new nice things that will come. I tell you a name, ADF. And another task is to create a better experience to reduce the learning curve for the newbie, because lots of you, we mentioned Axel, we mentioned Angel, we mentioned lots of people that are experienced developers of Alfresco, but we focus also on enlarge the community because we want more developer using Alfresco.
Yeah,
I talk too much.
No, you talk the perfect amount of. I have 4 minutes left. One of the biggest challenges we have is how we do that split between how much of our time and focus do we spend on net new developers and how much do we spend on the existing community. And one of the things you said, I just wanted to strongly reiterate on. I've been while I was in the role as evangelist, I tried to stay clear of the members of our community. I mentioned them as members of the developer ecosystem, just not to confuse the whole thing. Because from an evangelist point of view, a developer is a developer is a developer. We don't really mind if you're a community developer, if you're a hobbyist, if you're working with Enterprise Edition, if you're working for a partner or a customer. I mean, we all face the same challenges with development on Alfresco, and we don't need separate pieces of content for enterprise or community. It's the same. So the developer persona is pretty much the same. Richard, you look like you had a comment to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, just I leave you just to say, and I put it in my sign that Ayad probably is not seen, but I'm also proud to be Order of the Bee member, because in the past someone asked me, "Hey, Francesco, but you joined Alfresco, so you are not a member of the Order of the Bee." No, of course I cannot vote because I'm an Alfresco employee, but I'm still member of the, like Ole is, Richard is, and so on. So sorry, Richard, go ahead, please. So sorry.
No, it's fine. That's an excellent point, Francesco, and I want to transition a little bit. As we were talking about developers, I realized there was one topic we missed in our planning, and we're almost out of time. Kristen's got us doing office hours more regularly, so we'll talk about this topic more in the future. But one of the efforts we've been working on is how to improve at taking contributions, and each open source project at Alfresco has a slightly different way of taking contributions, and a lot of people like to do their contributions to GitHub, which is why we've long had a mirror between our internal Subversion repository and GitHub. That mirror is broken. Loftux helped me set it up. It's on my personal server. It's never had good IT resources. And IT was happy with not having to put resources into it as long as it worked. And now that it's broken, everybody's panicked. I tried to fix it. It's really broken. We can go into details later. But the point is, our current strategy is not to fix it because I don't think it's fixable. Our current strategy is to move from Subversion to Git, as we've been trying to do for years, and then mirror from our internal GitLab instance to the public GitHub. And we set that up for records management. We started doing that. Activity's been like that for a while. The ADF is, I think, currently hosted on GitHub. Is its core repository. Same with activity. And the ECM platform, we're splitting into a variety of projects that are small enough to fit. So it's going to take time to do that, but that's our current plan. Because as far as I can tell, the only way to fix the GitHub mirror is to wipe out the GitHub project and start over, and then we lose everything, all the followers, all the pull requests, and everything that's already up there. So anyway, that was the 2-minute update on that. Sorry about cramming that in the last minute.
No, it's all good updates. So yeah, we're pretty much out of time. We have 1 more minute left, maybe a couple of minutes, but I'm not sure if we have more. Want to start new topics. I just had a look at the RC channel. There's not more questions left. So maybe any final comments? And again, we'll talk more about all. I couldn't say because you guys own the Office Hours TikTok Live now, but I would assume that this is a topic we could discuss again at a later point on how we're doing with evangelism and community efforts and everything.
Oh, we were going to talk. Yeah, we were going to talk about give an update on activity. we're pretty much out of time. But the summary is that's the topic for the next Tech Talk Live, correct?
No.
No, it's app.
No. App Dev Framework. Okay. We're working on getting the activity team to present.
We are filling a long list of Tech Talk Live, a long list of Office Hours. So it will come.
Excellent. But the summary is that there's a lot of conversation about changes in the activity project, and it's all interesting conversation. And but we do still have an activity team. Some of those members of the team have been on the project for a while, and they're working on the next release. And we always have to adjust to current events, but we are pushing forward, and we'll have more public conversations about that in the near future.
All right.
Is that a decent summary, Oli?
It is, and that pushed us up to on top of the hour. So thank you so much for attending, and all the questions and the conversations really good. I'm super excited to see that we have such an efficient team with Kristen and Francesco on board. So I'm really hopeful for the future, and I'm super excited you guys are already doing a much better job than I ever did with Tech Talk Live to get things scheduled ahead of time and everything. So super exciting, thumbs up from my point of view. So with that being said, enjoy your weekend. If you have a weekend, myself, I'm off for the weekend in half an hour. So take care, guys, and see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.